This is Law and Society with Andrew Stevenson, attorney at law. This is where legal and social issues come together, and I'm enjoying. This is a second part of a two-part show, and so we want to refer people back. If you missed our show on Miranda or any of them, they're available by podcast. You can go to our wolfohio.com, and I think you have them cross-linked at your site as well.
StevensonCriminalDefense.com.
StevensonCriminalDefense.com. Go there. You can hear any of these shows. And by the way, we highly recommend you play them for your kids. Put them in your phone and play them in the car when you're on long trips with the kids, especially teenagers.
Yeah. Maybe not the little ones.
No, but the teenagers need to hear this stuff. Yes. This is amazing. We're continuing on the number one thing that can get you thrown in jail, and that is going in and talking to the police without an attorney.
Yes.
And so let's talk about balance of power here, because you walk into the police station and think, okay, I'm going to sit in the lobby and answer questions. No, you're not.
No, you're not. Usually, the reason they invite you down to the police station, there's a practical reason. One, the interview rooms are recorded. But number two is that that's their house. That's where they are in control. And these interview rooms are set up, some of them very specifically, to where they place the suspect in relation to the police. They are intimidating. You have to go through locked doors to get into these rooms. The police put the suspects as far away from the door as they can. Now, they say you're free to go. They tell them that, and they are. But you have to have the moxie to get up in the middle of a conversation, to stop the conversation that you've been engaged in for 30 minutes and walk out the door. And as soon as you walk out the door, you're confronted with a locked door that they got to open to get you to the outside.
And many people just don't have the moxie, as you said, to get up and do that.
And when you're in there, the suspect is going to feel isolated, alone. They're going to be scared. It's socially awkward to disagree with someone. It's part of the interview technique is to, anytime someone denies something the police want to have affirmed, they disregard their denial. It's part of what's called the read technique, which if we have time, I'll get into in the end. But anyone in this situation is subject to potentially making a mistake. Mark, if you were in there and the police said to you, listen, were you driving down such and such a road 4 months ago? You don't remember.
Right.
And they say, well, is it possible? You might be in some point inclined to say yes. It was possible. Well, okay, so you were driving down this road on this date 4 months ago, and you're like, oh, eventually you may say yes, but that's of course where the crime occurred, and so now you have voluntarily put yourself in that situation without really even confessing to anything, but now you're there.
It's like the story you told in the previous segment where you said one of the questions was, did you give him cigarettes?
Yeah.
The guy thinking not even...
He's not worried about cigarettes. He's worried about rape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so, but the big issue that we have is, and this is where people usually get shocked, is that the police are allowed to lie. They are allowed to lie to suspects.
We found your fingerprints.
We have your finger. We know you did it. We know it was you. Don't lie to me. We got a witness. We got you on video. We got your fingerprints. They are allowed to lie. Now, if a suspect lies to the police, that's a crime. If the police lie to a suspect, it's perfectly legal. And that is really kind of where having a lawyer with you balances out the power.
Immediately, the power balances.
The power balances. And then it's a fair conversation about information, about evidence, about clearing your name. So I have gone to interviews with the police, with clients, and I do it. You would probably be surprised how frequently I actually do. But in those environments, the balance of power is equal.
Because all of a sudden you have an ally in
the room beside you. You're not alone. You're not as scared. And if there's a question that I know is inappropriate, I can shut it down.
But what happens when you get called midway into the interview? Somebody goes in voluntarily, and then all of a sudden says, "You know what?"
No one calls me midway.
Really, it never happens.
They call me either before
or after it's too late.
Usually it's after. They say, I just got done talking to the police. Do you think I did the right thing? And I usually have to say to them, come on into my office. We need to talk.
Yeah. And then they're going to have to remember everything they said to the police.
And my secretary, there is one rule that she's not allowed to give legal advice, but she is allowed to tell anyone who calls, who's on their way to the police station, do not talk to the lawyer. Do not talk to the police until you talk to Andrew.
Okay.
They're
allowed to say that.
Yes, my secretary has agreed because there are no exceptions to this rule. There are just no exceptions.
So it's either before or after. You've never gotten called midway through.
I've never gotten called midway through.
I mean, I would think that at some point some question would trigger the I need a lawyer. Now, let's just hypothetically, though, I'm a half hour in, right?
Right.
And I say, gosh, they're asking me some really stuff I
question.
wasn't expecting.
Yeah, you thought you were here about a bad check, and next thing you know, they're talking to you about your neighbor's dog.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Can I stop and say, we're done until I get my lawyer in here? I mean, now, are they obligated then to stop? Because you're still not under arrest.
Yes. Once you say I want a lawyer, it doesn't matter whether you're under arrest, not under arrest, in the back of a car, in a dump truck. It's kind of like green eggs and ham, okay?
So the earlier you say it, the better.
Yes, it doesn't matter where you are. Once you say it, they have to stop questioning you.
All right. So immediately, if they come to your door or call you,
I'd be glad to speak with you, but I'm not going to do it without a lawyer.
Yeah,
I'll give you a call once I talk to my lawyer, and we'll set something up.
All right, that's beautiful. Yeah. Now, what happens though and there's a lot of folks in our listening area that are they're paycheck to paycheck, and the idea of hiring a lawyer is
it's free to call.
You'll take that call
for free?
I'll take
that call for free every day. I do it all day long.
Andrew Stevenson. It's StevensonCriminalDefense.com. You heard him say it. If you're in a pinch, in a bind, you think that they're coming after you they're going to question you.
Give me a call. I give free consultations, and anyone who calls is on the way to the police station. I have always talked to.
I want to spend a minute or two still on this allowed to lie thing, because there are countries that don't allow their police to lie, right?
Yeah. And one of the reasons that they don't is because of false confessions. Mm-hmm. And there are three things that that are true about false confessions.
Yeah.
The first of which is that most people believe that they would never admit to something that they did not do. Most people struggle with the concept that somebody actually provided a false confession. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it a very difficult issue. But everybody has their breaking point. Mm-hmm. Now, some people's breaking points would require things like torture. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people who confess are not overly educated. They are maybe have mental health issues. Mm-hmm. These are the people who provide false confessions. Yeah. The second fact we know about false confessions is that 25% of all the DNA exonerations, the conviction was the result of a false confession. What I mean is that we know certain people have been falsely convicted. Yeah, they have been exonerated by DNA evidence.
Some real high-profile cases right here in Ohio.
Of those, 25% confessed to the crime.
Okay.
So they confessed to a crime they did not commit and were later exonerated by DNA evidence. And that's the example of a false confession.
And the public at large has no idea why that confession was made.
How did the confession happen? Yeah. This is the basis of the TV show Making of a Murderer.
Yeah.
And then the third thing we know is that adolescents, teenagers, especially younger kids, provide higher rates of false confessions than adults. And consider this scenario, a juvenile, and remember that a juvenile has to exercise his or her own Miranda rights. They have to say, I want a lawyer. Mom and dad can't say it for them.
Okay.
And there is no age limit, and mom and dad have no right to be in the room with them.
There's a stunner fact.
So you could take a 16-year-old kid who is accused of, let's say, rape. Wow. They're alone in this interview room with two detectives. They're scared. They are alone. Their mom isn't there. They're in a situation where they probably don't understand the full consequences.
And they've been told to respect the police.
Their entire life growing up, the police are their friends. Mm-hmm. Or every experience they've ever had with mom and dad is, if I just say what they want to hear, they'll leave me alone. And now over the course of hours, the police repeatedly tell them, listen, we know you did it. We have evidence. We have your DNA. We have a witness. We have a suspect. And then every time that 16-year-old kid who just wants to go home to his house, to his mom, to his dad, to his bed, hears when he denies it, you're lying to me. You're making me mad. It breaks you down. The police use what are called minimization and maximization
strategies. Is this
strategies.
Good cop, bad cop?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Minimization is when they tell a suspect things like, listen, I'm your friend. I want to stay your friend. But it's hard for me to be there to support you if you keep lying to me. Or they say, I like you. If you're honest with me, I can go to the prosecutor and I can tell him you're a good person.
Yeah, I'm friends with the prosecutor. He's a good guy.
Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. You be honest with me. We can get you out of here and send you home today the sooner you clear this up. They make the situation seem less significant, that the consequences are less. Those are called minimization strategies.
Gotcha. Right.
Maximization strategies are when they're well-tailored threats. Listen, if you don't start telling me the truth, we're going to try this case as an adult. You want to go to adult prison? You know what happens to little punks like you in adult prison? That 16-year-old kid is going to get real scared.
Yeah.
And so then what they do, and in their mind, is they think, okay, this situation is bad. It's uncomfortable. I want to get out of here. But I'm really innocent. So I tell the cop what they want to hear. They're going to send me home. And because I didn't do it, the evidence will show that I'm actually innocent and that it was a false confession, or I just told the cop what they wanted to hear.
Right.
And that's what goes through the mind of a person who's in that situation. There's two problems there. Number one is that often the only evidence that the police really have is the confession. So you are providing the only evidence that exists. The 16-year-old scared kid who says, yeah, okay, I guess I did stab him, or I guess I was there, or yes, I did have sex with that girl. Whatever it is, who's just saying that, knowing he really didn't, and thinking the evidence is going to clear him. There is no evidence. The evidence that only exists now is the confession. And the second problem is it's real hard to tell a false confession from a real one.
Exactly.
So as a result, there have been several countries who have, and the biggest contributing problem is the police lying to suspects.
Right.
That's what causes all the problems, and that's what causes false confessions.
And that's, we're circling back to that there are countries that have banned false confessions because, or the lying to
suspects.
Right.
And what they have found, England and Germany are two of the high-profile ones. And what they have found is two things has happened since they eliminated allowing police to lie to suspects. Number one is that they have eliminated most claims of false confessions. No one comes forward and claims that it was a false confession anymore. And number two, this is the one that is probably more interesting, is that they're closing more cases and they're catching the true suspect or the true committer of the crime more frequently because they are not working off of false information and they don't stop the investigation. They keep going. They don't rely on a false confession to close the case.
And you said it. We have DNA evidence we didn't have 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We're getting better.
And we have cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another show.
That's a whole other show. Go back and listen to that one. Yeah.
All right. We're out of time. But again, I want a lawyer. That's first thing out of your mouth when they say, "Oh, come on down and we'll talk about this."
Correct.
All right. And Andrew Stevenson, you heard him, free. He'll give you a free consultation. StevensonCriminalDefense.com, and we'll see you next month.
All righty. Thanks, Mark.